Hey gang, today we're going to look at this Harley Benton Les Paul copy and see how it stacks up to my American-made Gibson. I'm sure you've heard about these Harley Benton Les Paul copy guitars. There are a ton of very positive reviews out there on YouTube, but one thing is pretty clear: they are heavy. Well, this SC550 is actually a chambered guitar, so it does bring some weight relief. The comparison guitar today is this 1970s Tribute Gibson Les Paul, one of my personal favorite guitars. I love this guitar. Is this a fair comparison? Of course it's not. But hear me out. Here's my reasoning. Number one, if you're budget conscious, and let's face it, if you're considering the Harley Benton, you're probably budget conscious. You might be tempted to say, well, I'd actually at least like to see what's the closest comparison, lowest priced, or one of the lowest priced Gibsons, actual Gibsons that I could get. And this is it. Now, actually it's today. This is 2012, and I'll talk about some of the differences between today's Tribute guitars and this one. The second reason is that this is a weight relieved guitar as well. It's a chambered body, so both of those have that characteristic that's in common. So I think we can make that comparison. There's one secret spec of this guitar I'll share with you at the very end of the video, and if you stick around past the tone examples, I'll tell you what it is. All right, let's get down to it now. First, the specs on this guitar. All right, quick rundown of this guitar. And here's the proof that it's one of my favorites. Look at that, the finish is worn out where I've been playing it. All right, well, why is this one of my favorites? Quite simply, it's weight relieved. This is a chamber guitar, 8.1 pounds. Now, if you want it to be all solid and you like that heavier guitar, clearly this is not for you. That's totally fine. But I love that about this guitar. The other thing I like about this guitar is it's just a workhorse guitar. Look, there's no frills on this. There's no binding on the neck. There's nothing fancy about this. It just gets the job done. That's it. Now, it's a little bit different from today's Tributes. This was a 2012. The main difference is the pickups. That's the main difference. There's also a secret difference, as I said, I'll tell you at the end. The main difference is the pickups. These are mini humbuckers. Today's Tribute has 490 pickups, which are full-sized humbuckers. They're Alnico 2s, so they're not quite as powerful as Alnico 5s. That might be good for you, that might not be. They tend to sound a little more vintage, so I think the comparison is probably a pretty good one. Mini humbuckers tend to be a little bit weaker than regular humbuckers, and so I think the comparison's probably pretty good. I've never had to change anything on this guitar, rock solid, except for I changed the nut, and that's just a personal preference. I like a bone nut, so I put a bone nut in there. Everything else is the same. Love this guitar. Let's take a look at the Harley Benton. Here's a guitar we're going to check out today, the Harley Benton SC550. And yes, it is a chambered guitar, and it's weight relieved. This one clocks in at 9.1 pounds. A little bit heavier than my Gibson, but it's in the same ballpark. Where it's not in the same ballpark is the price. This one runs new $270. And actually, I bought a B stock one for $190, but you can get it today for $270. And of course, that doesn't include shipping, which will be another $30 to $60 depending on where you are. So let's just do a quick rundown. We'll take a look at this guitar and talk about some of the relevant specs, and then we'll do a sound comparison of the two. All right, well, let's check this one out and have a rundown of the specs. Now, this was a B stock purchase, so I actually thought it might have some finish issues or whatever that were visible. I found nothing on this really nice silver burst finish anywhere, really. I think it's really in good shape. And the only thing I could find were two little things after a lot of searching. Okay, here's the first thing that I found. I found a tiny amount of glue glop in the neck joint here, just a tiny amount. That didn't bother me at all. And the other thing that I found after a lot of searching was, I'm not even sure this will come in the picture here in the camera. I'll get some good light on it or something. I don't know, it's hard to get in. It's really hard to see. There is a little bit of a crack on this fret. Just a tiny finish crack. I can't even get to see that in the camera. So anyway, it's really tiny and I couldn't see it. So If that's an option for you, you want to save a few extra bucks, do that by all means. If you don't want to take that chance, you're already saving a lot of money anyway, so maybe don't take the chance. Let's talk about the specs and the good and bad. The specs, standard. This is all standard Les Paul stuff. Ooh, it doesn't have a pick guard, so if that's a deal breaker for you, I guess you'll have to get something else or live without pick guard. I can live without pick guard. All right. 2 Alnico full-sized humbuckers. These are Roswell pickups. I think you will find that they sound pretty good, but listen to the sounds to be sure, okay? They're not super muddy, relatively articulate. I like that. I like that. 3-way toggle. Switch feels okay, actually. 2 volume, 2 tone. The pots feel good too. Nothing wrong with them. These do not have coil splits, so if you're hell-bent on coil splits, these don't have them. You'll have to find a different guitar. Personally, I don't buy a Les Paul to coil split it. I have other guitars for that, so I don't mind that at all. That's my personal preference. Okay, rest of the rundown. I already talked about that it has a weight relief, which is good. It has a 60s profile neck, so I think that's going to be comfortable for a lot of people. The neck profile is really actually very nice on this one. 24 3/4 inch scale, that's perfect. That's regular Gibson. Graphite nut, which is nice. Actually, the tuners on this, now they don't look like anything special. They aren't anything special, but they're actually really smooth for a budget guitar. And I actually like the headstock design a lot on this as well. So a couple of things I'd point out that I really like. Roasted Jatoba fretboard. You know what it feels like? It feels like rosewood, and it looks like rosewood. So there you go. And I have to say, the other thing that's a little bit different is that this has a 14-inch or approximately 14-inch radius. It's 350 millimeters, which is a little bit less, but it's flatter than the 12-inch Gibson radius, so just be prepared for that. It's not super flat. It's pretty flat, but it's not that much different from a Gibson on that. Now, let's talk about the pros and cons. The biggest pro for this one is, the biggest 2 pros are, I think it sounds pretty good, as you'll see. The other thing is that this thing plays amazingly. You don't want to know why? Because the fretwork is superb. Not only are there no fret ends, these frets are extremely level. There's no twists in the neck, and so the playability on this is just superb. They've cut the nut really well. Everything just works really well. It came set up pretty well. I just had to tweak it just a tiny amount. This is a great playing guitar, and because of that, I like playing it. It's really fun to play. The other thing that's really awesome on this is it has this nice little neck joint. Now, it's not a Paul Reed Smith, it's not PRS perfect neck joint or anything like that. There's no scoops here, but it does, for a $270 guitar, it gives you better access for the frets up here on the neck, which I actually really like a lot. The only negative for this guitar is I wish it were a pound less. That's the only negative that I can come up for this one. I really do wish it had better weight relief. 9 pounds would have been a lot better if it were 8. All right, let's check out the sounds now. All right, now the fun part. We're going to do the sounds. Yay! All right, so first we'll do clean, then we'll do dirty, and then we'll do the high gain. So starting out with the clean, I'm going to just use my Blackstar HT5 going directly to the guitar. There's no pedals on this. The EQ is flat, okay? And I'm just going to use the clean channel on this. First the Harley Benton, then the Les Paul. right, now we're going to do the dirty sounds. Again, I'm just going to use the amp and the guitar, and this time I'm going to put it on the lead channel with just a slight amount of gain, maybe clocked at around 4, just to give me that sort of early 70s dirt sound. All right, the last sound we're going to check out is the high gain sound. For this, I'm just going to look at the bridge pickup on both guitars. And once again, we're not going to use any pedals whatsoever, EQ flat, and I'm just going to play out of the lead channel, but I'm going to crank up the gain so we get a little bit of more high gain sound, more lead sound on this. All right, gang, well, there we go. Don't forget to leave your comments below. What did you think? Oh, I almost forgot. What's the secret spec on this guitar? The secret spec is that this, believe it or not, has a maple fretboard. It's dyed. I've never had anybody tell me, man, it sounds so bright. I bet that has a maple fretboard on it. So think about that. Anyway, I think it's kind of cool. My first roasted maple fretboard, it was this one, a Gibson, believe it or not. All right, hope you enjoyed this one. Yeah, and tell me what you think about this Harley Benton SC 550 in comparison to this. And yeah, tell me what you think about it. All right, see you on down the road.